Welcome back to our discussion on statistics. I'm Jason Grindstaff, and in the previous videos we've been looking at some statistical concepts that have looked at different measures of central tendency, range, confidence intervals, and now we're on to our discussion of probability. And in the last video we introduced this concept of probability and started working with some example problems. But let's go back and review just real quick. When we're given the task of calculating probability, in essence, all we're being asked to do is to calculate how many number of favorable outcomes, and that's going to be divided by our total number of outcomes. For you Texas Hold'em fans or poker fans, the next couple of problems will kind of be right up your alley. So we know that in a poker game, a two-card draw poker game like Texas Hold'em, the best starting hand would be two aces. So what if we wanted to calculate the probability or the odds of getting ace-ace, okay? So we want to calculate the probability of being dealt an ace and an ace. Now again, remember, if you're not familiar with the standard deck of cards, there's 13 ranks and 4 suits. So 13 times 4 is our 52. Now we're not asking about any particular ace or any particular particular suit. Doesn't matter if it's the hearts, doesn't matter if it's the spades. We just want 2 aces out of the 4. That's our best starting hand. So we want to calculate what are the odds of being dealt the best starting hand in poker. And so in essence, let's just walk through and figure out what are the odds of being dealt that first ace, okay? So the number of favorable outcomes divided by the total number of outcomes. And so remember, we know there are 4 aces in the deck, and we know that there are 52. All right. So in the previous video, we asked, for example, a jack or a 3. That or conditional meant that we were going to, there was going to be an additive property here. But because we want one ace and another ace, we need to multiply. So in essence, we've got 4 out of 52, but once we draw that first card, how many cards are left in the deck? Well, hopefully there's 3 more aces out of 51. And so if we multiply this out, what we come up with is 3 out of 663 times, which is going to come out to be 1 out of 221 hands. So in essence, what that's going to give us is we're going to be able to say that 0.45% of the time, so less than 0.5% of the time, or out of every 221 draws of 2 cards out of a standard 52 deck of cards, you're going to start with that best hand in poker, ace-ace. Let's look at one more example, okay? So a poker player is going to love getting that ace-ace. But what if we said we wanted the probability, and this will be our last probability question. What if we said we wanted to figure out the top 3 starting hands in all of poker, being dealt one of those 3 hands? So we want the probability of either ace-ace or king-king or the third best rank starting hand in all of poker is ace-king. So we want to calculate what's the probability of being dealt 2 aces, 2 kings, or ace-king. So let's look here. All right, don't be confused by now that we have 3 conditions. Let's break this down and look at the very first draw of that card. How many favorable outcomes? Well, in essence, all we're asking is that we either get an ace or a king in that very first draw. So how many cards could we draw out of 52? Ask yourself. Either an ace or a king. That's right, 8 of them. So if we draw, there's 52 possibilities, but there are 8 favorable outcomes. So 8 out of 52 times, we're going to get an ace or a king in that first draw. Now, what about that second draw? Well, that second draw doesn't really matter if it's an ace, king, doesn't matter at all. But we know that there are 7 favorable cards. 7 favorable cards that could give us one of these combinations. So 8 out of 52 for the first go around and 7 out of 51. So from there, what we're going to get is we're going to get 0.1538 times 0.1373. And that's going to give us 0.0211. Converted to a percentage, just take this times 100, and we come up with 2.11% of the time. Just a little out of 1 out of 50 times are we going to get ace-ace, king-king, or ace-king. So there's a few more practice problems on probability. Hopefully that was a good introduction for you to the concept of probability. Remember, any practice problem that you're given, always come back to your original formula of number of favorable outcomes over or divided by your total number of outcomes, and you should be able to begin working through that concept and coming up with what are the favorable outcomes, what are your total outcomes possible, and then getting your probability. In a future video, what we'll do is we'll continue with our discussion on probability and start looking at how combinations and permutations can be used to calculate this probability concept. Thank you.